In 1969, the Internet started as a military experiment called ARPANET. The United States needed a communication system that could survive a nuclear strike. The solution was a network with no center. If one city was destroyed, the data would just automatically find another path around it. The very first message sent across this new system traveled from UCLA to Stanford. The researchers tried to type the word login. They typed the L, then the O, and then the entire system crashed. That single experiment, a crash after 2 letters, laid the foundation for the modern Internet. Today, that exact same architecture connects 15 billion devices, from laptops to refrigerators. To understand how all that data travels, imagine trying to mail a 1,000-page book. You can't fit it in one envelope. So you tear out each page, put it in its own envelope, number them, and drop them in the mail. They might all take different routes, but your friend sorts them by number and reassembles the book at the end. That is exactly how network packets work. Every device online has an IP address. Think of it as a street address for a building. But a building has many rooms, and that is where ports come in. A computer has 65,535 virtual rooms. If an envelope goes to room 80, the web server handles it. If it goes to room 22, the secure administration service handles it. Early networks used devices called hubs to connect computers. A hub was like someone standing in a hallway shouting every message so anyone could hear it. Modern networks use switches. A switch acts like a smart mailroom. It looks at a physical hardware fingerprint burned into your device and quietly delivers the message only to you. Data movement is governed by these physical transit rules: how packets travel, where they are addressed, and who sorts them. You have to understand how the digital city is mapped before you can defend it or attack it. Real attackers rarely start by writing code. They start by gathering every public digital footprint you've left behind: social media posts, news articles, and company directories. They use this data to build a profile of the target before launching tools from Kali Linux, an operating system that works like a professional chef's kitchen, filled with specialized equipment designed for one specific task. The most important tool in that kitchen is Nmap. An attacker points it at a target, and it acts like a surveyor walking the perimeter of a building, testing every door and window to see which ones respond. If the attacker finds a service that requires a login, they don't need to guess the password themselves. They use a method called brute force. They feed a list of millions of common passwords into a program that methodically tries every single one of them. The computer cycles through the list at incredible speed until it hits the correct combination. This is the reality of cyber attacks. It is rarely a sudden stroke of brilliance. It is mostly patient, systematic observation, probing the perimeter until the attacker finds one entry point that was carelessly left open. To see what happens when an attacker finds an open door, we set up a target machine called Metasploitable. It's a server frozen in time from 2008, designed to be deliberately broken. It is a derelict building filled with rusty locks. When we scan this target, the map shows 23 potential entry points. One of them is port 5900. This room runs a service that allows someone to remotely view and control the computer's desktop screen, just like they were sitting right in front of it. The attacker connects to port 5900 and finds the password was left as the word password. They enter it, and the system logs them in immediately. The developers had left the default credential in place. Instantly, the attacker is granted root access. This is the highest possible authority. You can read any file and change any setting. Because this is a remote desktop service, the attacker can now silently watch the screen while the legitimate owner is using the machine. The attacker types a command, and the words "I can see you" appear directly on the victim's terminal. The attacker then resets the system's credentials. When the victim tries to log back in, the system rejects them. They have been locked out of their own computer. There was no complex malware used here. Total system takeover happened because one default setting was never changed. Beyond local networks, the largest attack surface is the web. Every website stores your data in a database. Think of a database as an infinite hospital filing room. When you log in, your browser uses a specific language to hand a request slip to the clerk asking for your specific file. A SQL injection attack happens when an attacker writes new instructions on that request slip. If they type their username, but add a logical rule that is always true, like 1 = 1, the clerk is tricked. The clerk sees that the rule is satisfied for every file in the room. Instead of handing over one folder, the clerk dumps the entire filing cabinet onto the floor. The attacker gets everything. In 2011, a group used exactly this technique against Sony Pictures. They tricked the database into handing over 1 million user accounts. Because Sony had stored those passwords without any protection, the attackers could read them all. The resulting fallout cost Sony $605 million. A year later, LinkedIn suffered the same fate. A single vulnerability allowed attackers to extract 117 million accounts. Because people reuse their passwords across the internet, those stolen credentials were used to break into bank accounts and personal emails worldwide. While some attacks target the database, others exploit the browser. Imagine someone sneaks into a hospital and pins a fake sign to the official notice board offering free health checks. Visitors trust the sign because they trust the building. This is the logic of web-based code injection. Attackers place malicious instructions on a trusted web page, and the visitor's browser executes them because it trusts the source. In 2005, 19-year-old Sammy Kamkar used this to his advantage. He hid code on his MySpace profile that forced anyone who visited his page to automatically add him as a friend. The code then silently copied itself onto the visitor's own profile, spreading to everyone they knew. In under 20 hours, the worm had infected 1 million users, forcing MySpace to take the entire platform offline to stop the spread. When developers prioritize convenience over checking what users type into their forms, they accidentally create the largest, most easily exploited attack surface in modern history. To protect your data, websites use a process called hashing. Hashing is like putting a piece of fruit into a blender. You drop a password in, and a fixed string of random characters comes out. It is a one-way process. You cannot unblend the juice to get the original fruit back. Since hackers cannot reverse a hash, they use tools like Hashcat to guess. Hashcat uses a massive recipe book. It takes millions of known passwords, blends each one, and checks if the resulting juice matches the target. When it finds a match, it knows what the original password was. The most famous recipe book is a file called rockyou.txt. It contains 32 million real passwords leaked in 2009. It proves exactly how predictable people are, and it remains a standard tool for every attacker today. So, is any password actually safe? Cracking is entirely a function of time. A 3-digit lock has 1,000 combinations and can be opened in minutes. A 15-character password has so many combinations, it would take longer than the age of the universe to crack. To defeat the recipe books, defenders add a random string of characters to your password before it's blended. This is called salting. It ensures that even if 2 people use the same password, they produce completely unique hashes, making the attacker's pre-written lists useless. The final defense is making the blender itself slow. Now, some older systems were built for speed. Modern security uses algorithms that are deliberately heavy. They turn a crack that might take seconds into one that takes centuries. A defender builds these slow blenders and unique salts because they understand the attacker's method. They know about the recipe books and the brute force tools, so they build an environment where those tools fail. You cannot build a secure system without first learning how it is broken. Defense is the art of seeing your own architecture through the eyes of the person trying to tear it down.